Every day in the USA, people find themselves in court.
Wild, okay. And Miss Wild, are you authorized to speak on behalf of Pro Service Auto Care?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so just for the parties' information, I have reviewed the exhibits that have been submitted by both parties, but at this point, I'm just wanting you to describe what has happened as if I know nothing of the matter. So are there any questions before we start?
No.
Okay. So first, I'm just going to request that all parties speak to me, not each other. As I know issues can kind of get contentious and there can be some history. I'm not aware of anything, so I just ask that you speak to me and not each other, and address everything towards me. How it's going to work, we're going to, since this is the claim brought by Mr. McCoy, he will be sworn and have a chance to speak. And then we'll have Pro Service Auto Care have a chance to speak, and then I'll give my judgment. So, Mr. McCoy, can I please, and then so for Brandy, can I please have you mute while Mr. McCoy is speaking? Perfect. And Mr. McCoy, I'm going to ask you to unmute, please. All right. And can you please state your name, your full name, and spell your last name for the record, please?
Joseph Glenn Roy McCoy, and it's McCoy.
Okay, thank you. And can I have you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to provide today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. So again, I have had a chance to review the exhibits that you have provided, but why don't you give me an overview of your claim as it's presented, please?
Absolutely. So Saturday, or excuse me, let me bring up my calendar here. So Friday, September 5th, I was driving my mother back from picking up her dog from the vet in Oregon. As I was coming down that hill, my check engine light came on and my truck went into limp mode, which is basically no power. It just lets you drive it home or to a shop, basically. So after I dropped my mom off, I went to O'Reilly's and I had them check the code. And on this first Veriscan, which is dated and timed, they told me that I had a P0299, which could cover a lot of things. He said it could be my vacuum lines, it could be bad sensor, or worst case scenario, it could be my turbos. So I spent that night and early that morning trying to do what I could to figure out what was wrong with my truck. Like I checked my vacuum lines, I checked my air intake, make sure that everything was still connected. Couldn't figure it out. So the next day, I went online. I Googled, what shops in town work on turbos. Pro Service came up. So I called and told them what was going on and set up an appointment for that day. That's what this receipt here is for $100. It was the inspection that he did. So I didn't have a vehicle at the time, another vehicle. So I just went over to Burgerville and kind of hung around while he was looking at my truck. When I came back, he had taken a camera and connected it to the bottom of an air hose and put it down the front of my truck and was showing me how my turbine wasn't spinning on my turbo. And then he went and grabbed another new turbo and did the same thing with the air and showed me, see how freely this is moving and how yours is not. It's most likely your turbos, unfortunately. So he had told me that he had purchased two turbos that were too small for the job that he had, and that they were just sitting in his shop, and that it looked like they would fit my truck. So, you know, I was like, absolutely. If you've already got them on hand, ready to go. He said he would give me a little bit of a deal on them since they were just sitting there. I was like, great, let's do it. Uh, I don't know if I can bring up anything that they wrote in their little statement here.
I have it in front of me.
Okay, well, like, you know, this whole thing of him telling me they were eBay turbos and offering me OEM parts, none of that happened. I was happy with what he was telling me from the beginning. I just agreed to it. So I dropped my truck off uh, September 8th on a Monday, and then I don't hear from him in all week. So Saturday the 13th, they called me after I had called them a couple times, and he told me that he was finally working on my truck, but when he was in there working on my turbos, he noticed that my exhaust manifold had two broken bolts on it. And he asked me if I wanted all that fixed. I was like, well, yeah, yeah. You know, I've only owned this truck less than a year at the time all this happened. I've barely had it 8 months. So yes, if there's any other issues, I want it fixed. You know, not a cheap car. I spent $24,000 on it. So, you know, I want everything done correctly and want it fixed and working right. So I agreed to that work to be done. And don't hear from them again until the 16th, when they call me and tell me that my truck is done, that it's fixed and ready to be picked up. So I went down there and I paid the $2,776 for the removal and replacement of my turbos and the removal and replacement of my exhaust manifold. Uh, so happy I have my truck back. My wife works over by Kelso High School, so not that far away from their shop, maybe 10 minutes. I leave to go to my wife's work to tell her that I have my truck back, and I get over the bridge and my check engine light comes on and my truck goes into limp mode. I immediately turned back around and went back to his shop. I was like, hey, you know, what's going on? My truck's doing the same thing that I dropped it off for. So he popped the hood. We spent about 15, 20 minutes looking at stuff, and there was a vacuum line that was not connected. So I was thinking, okay, no big deal. I could have forgot that. He connected it back up, cleared the codes on my truck, and I left to go do the exact same thing. Go head over to my wife's work. Same thing happens again. My check engine light comes on. My truck goes back into limp mode. At this point in time, I'm like, you know, what's going on? So I go back over to O'Reilly's and I have them run the code. And it's coming up as the exact same code that I took my truck into their shop to get fixed. I'd also like to point out that on my receipt that they gave me, that it is timed for 3:25 p.m. and my Veriscan is timed and dated for 4:26 p.m. And what they wrote here was that I only came and picked up my truck once and came back later that day, which is not true. I came back immediately after, and not only once, but twice. So we spend the next 2 hours at his shop. And at this point in time, I've told him, you know, dude, I've already missed a week and a half of work. I'm using up all my sick time. I'm starting to use my vacation time now. I need a vehicle. I need to be able to get back and forth to work. I work 30 miles away from where I live. I work in Woodland. So he offered me his vehicle to use until he gets figured out what's going on with my truck, which I really do appreciate. It was a nice thing for him to do. But, you know, so let's see, I called for an update on the 22nd. I left a message at 11:30 in the morning, and then I called again at 5:30 at night, left another message. Uh, they got back to me and told me that the issue was that my catalytic converter was clogged and causing my turbos to overboost, or there wasn't enough pressure coming out for them to work correctly. They quoted me another $1,500 to get a new catalytic converter. So I went up to my wife's dad's house, asked him to loan me $2,000 to pay for the repairs, which he did. And I have on my bank statement that I deposited that money into my account. I don't hear from him all that week until it's finally the 26th. And after work that day, I just go down to the shop because, it's been another week and I'm wondering what's going on. When I get there, he tells me that he did not have to replace my catalytic converter, that he ran 2 cycles of cleaner through it, and that fixed the problem. I was like, okay, great, awesome. So I paid, that's what that $270 thing was. That's the cost for the catalytic converter cleaner that he put through my truck. So I thank him. I tell him, hey, I'm going to leave you a really good review for letting me use your car for this week. And I leave. And my truck works fine for a week. Then on the 7th, I was driving to work and I got almost to the Woodland exit, and my truck starts making a horrible thumping noise. At this point, I don't know what to think because it's already been almost a month. I've dropped off my vehicle and picked it up multiple times. I get to work. I'm talking to a few of my coworkers, and they said, you need to just buck up and go get a second opinion on what's going on with your car. So 8 o'clock in the morning, I call Reed's Automotive, which is down there in Woodland, and I pay, another $194 to have them inspect my truck. And super not happy with what they told me. So first he tells me that, yes, my bolts and my gasket were replaced on my exhaust manifold, but the exhaust manifold was still warped from the bolts being broken off. And that was the original part on my car. So the only thing he replaced there was the bolts and the gasket. He didn't replace the exhaust manifold, which was still leaking out gas. And then he proceeds to tell me that that my turbos were not fully replaced. And at this point, I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I can pop my hood and I can see the top part of my turbos. And he goes, no, that's your wastegate and your actuator. That just controls the pressure to your turbos. The heart of your turbo is underneath. You can only see it by looking through your wheel well. And all those parts are still the original parts. So he only replaced the wastegate on the top. And that the noise that I was hearing was my driver's side turbo was opening and closing under 5 to 10 pounds of pressure, and my passenger side turbo was opening and closing under 25 to 30 pounds of pressure. So they weren't installed correctly. And then he shows me these pictures and he's like, your passenger side turbo is already leaking oil all over your vehicle. And that's what these photos are. And that, you know, that basically what he did was take half of my old turbo and parts off a new turbo and just Frankenstein them together. So I get another quote from them for $6,200 to have everything that they worked on in their shop. I had to have redone again. The exhaust manifold, I only needed to replace one, but he told me it was recommended to replace both of them. And then I had to have both the turbos replaced again as well. And I also have on this last paper here, under their notes, saying how my turbocharge and wastegate assemblies were found to be installed wrong, and how only my passenger side turbo actuator and gaskets were replaced, that all the other parts on my car were the original parts. I don't think I should have to pay to have my truck fixed twice and have everything that they worked on redone a second time. And I'd also like to bring up the fact that I didn't consent to them putting used and damaged parts back on my vehicle, which I was reading in Washington state law that that's pretty illegal for them to do.
So is it, but just to clarify, the turbo was the same.
He only
component?
replaced the wastegate, which is the top part of the turbo.
So it says the turbos and the exhaust manifolds appear to be original components, but you're also saying that they gave you used parts for that?
I'm saying that he put my broken turbo back on.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Maybe I should maybe I shouldn't say used parts. My original parts.
Okay, well, I was just wondering because you said that it's pretty illegal in Washington to put used parts in, so I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
I just want to make sure, are you claiming that they put these used parts in your car without
I'm saying they
consent?
put the broken part back on my
Your
on my
original
car.
broken turbo is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because there's a difference between putting a
Used
used
parts
part
and
versus
broken
your
parts.
original broken part. So
Okay.
okay. Because you said you didn't consent to the used part, so I just wanted to double check that. So you're saying it's for the original broken parts. Okay. And then when you went in for with the original service, I'm just trying to dig through everything. One moment. So you're saying that I'm looking at the invoice for pro service. That was the 2,776 bill invoice.
Yep.
That's the one that was provided. So it looks like remove and replace the turbocharger and then remove and replace the exhaust manifold and goes all of that and then some hazardous materials removal. So, but you're saying they did not replace this exhaust manifold or the turbocharger.
Yeah. Yeah. They did not replace the exhaust manifold because it was still warped when I took it into that other shop.
Do you know for sure? Because it says it appears to be the same parts, the original components. Are you sure that it's the same?
I mean, I would think that these other people would know the difference between the original parts and used parts. You
Well,
know,
original to a specific individual car versus the make and model of that car, right? Because like they would be the same type of part. Like an original component would be the same in all of these for all of the trucks at that time, right? So
Oh,
you're saying,
no,
I'm saying that like the original for that specific truck versus an original component that's designed for that truck in general.
yeah, no, I'm saying the original component.
Okay. But we don't, it says appears to be the original components, but we don't know for certain whether it is like
I guess
the
I,
actual, like the broken parts that were taken out of your vehicle then put back in.
yeah, I guess
Okay.
not. I can't say for sure. No.
Sure. No, I'm just, again, just trying to understand with everything I have. I have a bunch of papers and I have to just make sure I'm
Yep.
getting everything clear. Okay. Um, all right. I think I am going to turn it over to Miss Wild for pro service. Mr. McCoy, I'm going to ask you to mute, please.
Absolutely.
And then Miss Wild, are you the only one going to be speaking? I see you have another individual present.
No, I have Jeremy, who's the one who actually worked on it and talked to him.
Okay, and is he going to be speaking as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do this individually. So Miss Wild, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Brandy Wild and Wilde.
Okay, and can I please have you raise your right hand? Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth today?
Yes,
Okay, and then you indicated, and who do we have next to you?
Jeremy.
Jeremy, and Jeremy, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Jeremy Michael Ross.
Spell your last name for the record.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Ross.
Ross. All right, and can I please have you raise your right hand? Do you promise or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, so again, I have had a chance to review everything. Obviously, we've had a chance to listen to Mr. McCoy speak. So please describe to me your side.
So I got a phone call from Mr. McCoy, and he was saying he was having an issue with this truck. I'm pretty well versed in Fords, well, in all makes and models, but mainly Ford. At the time, I had just purchased a 2011, 12 Ford F-150. So basically the same truck as Mr. McCoy. His was just a couple years newer. He had described the problem over the phone, and first thing that popped in my head, and I told him, I said, that sounds like a bad turbo to me. The trucks are notoriously prone to have these issues. So he asked if he could bring it in. I said, yeah, we'll take a look at it, bring it in, and we'll see what we can do. So he brings it in. I take the intake tube off to gain access to the turbo. I couldn't feel it with my finger because of the deal, how far down it was. So I took a camera, air hose, blew in it, and nothing moved. The turbo was seized up, and that was on the passenger side. So let him know what was going on, and he expressed that he was basically strapped for cash, and what could we do? Yeah, he was going to try to finance it or something, try to find the money, and I gave them a couple choices. I had just bought off of Facebook Marketplace about a month prior to that a pair of turbos because my turbos in my truck were bad. And so I bought a set of turbos, and when I went to put the ones that I bought on my truck, they were actually for the next model, the next, I guess, revision of those trucks. So they wouldn't fit my truck, but they would fit his truck. I paid, I think it was $750 for them. Of course, they were off Marketplace. They were brand new. There was no, because they were off Marketplace, bought second hand, third hand, there's no warranty. I informed him that I could put these turbos on They are an eBay turbo. They're not as good as a factory turbo, but I would give them to them for what I had into them, which was $750. And also I would give them a 90-day warranty to where if anything happened to them, he could bring them back and we'd take care of them. So and I'm kind of going, I don't want to make it so long. Put the turbos on and something happened.
You noticed the exhaust bolt.
Oh, definitely. Sorry. So when putting on turbo, there was a couple of bolts that were broke on the exhaust manifold. Called them up, said, you have a couple broken bolts. Would you like those fixed? Because they definitely hinder the performance of a turbo, any exhaust leaks. And he said, yeah. So I did the right side exhaust manifold gaskets because I had to take off the manifold. And I used my welder, I got the bolts out, and put new gasket in his original exhaust manifold, and of course new bolts. When I put it all together, there was no leaks. I would have never left it with any leaks. We take pride in everything. It's just me and Brandy that work here, and so we try to do everything as much as we can. What's that? Oh, so after we did that, he left. I took it on a test drive. It was about I can't say how long. I have a certain route. It's like 8 miles or so like that. We go down West Side Highway to Lexington. That'll give me a cruising speed of about 40 to 55 miles an hour. And then we have freeway speeds, and then we have in-town driving. That way you have all the different scenarios of driving your car on a daily basis. I didn't encounter any problems. So called up Mr. McCoy, told him his truck was done. He might have already been here. I don't know. He might have stopped in while I was finishing. I honestly, I can't remember. But usually I would call and say, okay, your truck's ready to be picked up. Came and picked up the truck, and he left. He did stop back in. Was it that day?
Yeah.
He didn't get very far.
A vacuum leak.
And there was a vacuum leak on
Just plugged it in.
on one of the vacuum lines. On these cars, there's a ton of stuff. I mean, it's very easy. I'm human. It's very easy for me to miss something, for anybody to miss something. That's why we have warranties.
We fixed it right away.
Yeah, we fixed it. I fixed it right away, and then he came back and said that there was still a code for an underboost. So I checked the turbos again, and what I had found is one of the brand new turbos on the driver's side had failed prematurely. And so I didn't have another driver's side complete turbo, but the turbos are they're in like 3 different pieces. So there's a lot of little pieces, but your 3 main pieces that you have are the exhaust housing, and then you have an intake housing, and then you have what's called we call it a center cartridge. This is where everything is. This is where the turbo, the blades, this spins, and then there's one on this side. So this is the only part that really does anything, is the center section of a turbo. I didn't have another exhauster inlet for his truck for the left side because they are left and right. But the cartridges are universal. You can put them on the left or the right side. So what I did was I told Mr. McCoy that if he looks down in his driver's side wheel well, he will notice that the factory Ford inlet, which is the cold side, and the his factory Ford outlet were going to be from reused on his truck, but it has a new center section. So basically the bearings, the stuff that matters is all brand new. The reason why I used the factory Ford housings on it were because everything, of course, from Ford fits better. So I put the factory stuff back on with a new center cartridge. I did explain that to him, and I made sure that he knew exactly what I was talking about. And I showed him exactly what I replaced, why I explained to him why I replaced it, and that was pretty much the end of it. He had made a couple of things. I did some notes here. Yeah, and then since when he left, then the only next time that we heard anything from Mr. McCoy was being served with papers for being sued. So we never got contacted again to see if he never let us know that there was a problem. And all of our warranties, of course, it's stated right on the receipt that all warranties are handled in-house. We have a 12,000 mile warranty. And I did handwrite, because the turbos were an eBay turbo. I hand wrote on here, and I'm going to give them a 90-day warranty on the turbos because they're an eBay turbo. Even though there was no warranty on them, I don't have a warranty because I bought them off Marketplace. I was still offering him a 90-day warranty on the turbos.
Because he knew that they weren't brand new.
Yeah, because they were brand new, but they weren't purchased from wherever the turbos came from, the manufacturer. I purchased them from just somebody off Marketplace, and therefore there's no warranty that carries over.
Okay.
So let's see. So when we got all this stuff, I was kind of going through everything, and I honestly thought that it was because he looked down at the driver's side turbo and saw that it was factory, and then it was, oh my God, everything's coming apart. He ripped me off, but I had very much explained the situation to him and why I did it, what you're going to see, what you're going to encounter. And then the other thing is on the wastegate, the issue that he apparently was having, like I said, I don't know, he never came back to my shop, was the wastegates were not timed with each other. They're not set exactly perfect with each other. I own 3 turbocharged cars myself, and we specialize in turbocharged systems. So when you're doing wastegates and when you're dealing with 2 separate turbos, each side of the motor is going to have different characteristics. So one side of the motor is going to flow up a different rate than another side of the motor if there's any carbon deposits built up. Plug catalytic converter, he had mentioned. We had cleaned his catalytic converters. All we were trying to do on that was save him money because he said he had none. And so that's why we went with cleaning the cats instead of replacing them. On the turbos, we went with the eBay ones. I did recommend going with the Ford ones, but at $6,000, he said there was no way that could happen. So when they're out of sync, it's literally just an adjustment.
You don't need
to put new turbos on. There's no reason for it to be out of adjustment. It takes 15 minutes to readjust them. You take the car for a drive, make sure that they're opening at the same time, make sure there's no under boost or over boost codes. And if there's not, then we're done. After looking at all the paperwork and kind of going back on everything, thinking about everything, and then I was reading on when he said that about the manifolds. He never got charged for an exhaust manifold itself. It was to take the bolts out and replace the gaskets. And that's why on our receipt, it says exhaust manifold gasket set. There is no manifold here, so he didn't get a new one. Try not to give away parts, but sometimes.
But you have to remove the exhaust manifold to get to the gasket, and I think that's what he's seeing.
Yeah, so on the labor description, it says exhaust manifold, but you have to take the manifold off to put a new gasket on and to get the bolts out.
And on here, it never said his turbos were bad. It just said out of sync. So
Yeah, on the reads, when I was reading this, there was nowhere that said that the turbos were bad. It just said the wastegates weren't synced properly.
and they just,
And
They
that
just
they
recommend-
recommended replacing it because they looked at the driver's side. I'm sure that they looked at the driver's side turbo and thought it was that we replaced or put on his old stuff. And if we would have put on his old stuff, it wouldn't have lasted 4,000 miles because it didn't work when he brought it in. So that part kind of confused me a little bit. When it came into us, the truck had 135,689 miles. When it got to Reed's Automotive, it had 139,402 miles, which is in 5 days, which is about a 4,000 mile difference. Which 4,000 miles is a lot of driving in 5 days. But either way, it should have, the turbo should have been fine. But if they weren't fine, a regular, my normal customer, we are a 5-star shop. We're very busy, and we have about 3,500 customers. And when any of my customers, if they ever have an issue, all they do is they come in, they tell me I have an issue, and we get them in and we get them taken care of. In Mr. McCoy's case, when he did come back, going back to then, I was very busy. I had about 40 cars waiting in line, and it was kind of hard for me to get his truck right in because I did need a lift for it, and both my lifts were taken. So I offered him my 2016 BMW to drive as long as he needed to until his truck was done, which I believe I've never done that before. This was like a first time, loaning out a $60,000 car isn't a habit I like to do. But I knew what type of situation he was in. I knew he needed to make money to pay for his truck and his, for family. And I kind of have a soft spot for family. So I let him use my personal BMW.
but just saying that his turbos were working just fine. They were just out of time. So
Yeah.
we,
But what we put in our paperwork, our lawyers draw up everything. And on the bottom of the paperwork is our warranty on parts and labor for 1 year or 12,000 miles, whichever come first. Warranty work will be performed in our shop and cannot exceed the cost of the original repair. So.
But he never called or came
We
back.
never heard from him again. So for one, he never gave us a chance to fix the problem or to see if there was a problem. Like he stated when he said before he came in, he tried to fix it himself. And when he got his truck back, he said that there was an exhaust or a vacuum line off. And he stated himself that he probably forgot to put the vacuum line on. I don't need to replay or remove any of the vacuum lines up on top of the motor or on the intake to get the turbos off. I just remove the intake and then everything kind of sits where it is. So the vacuum line, when it came back the first time, I'm not going to say it's not our fault because it was at my shop. I didn't get a code for it. So I don't know if it was myself or him. I mean, he said it was probably him from when he tore it apart the day before, but I don't know. I have no problem taking responsibility for forgetting to do or missing a vacuum line. But after that, we never, after we fixed his car, got the turbo, I did take it for a very long test drive on that one. I took it for probably a 25-mile test drive. And I did it over several days, over about 2 days. I took it for a test drive after I got the car done. Then I wanted to make sure that everything was good. So I waited till the next day for when it would start cold, because the car can act differently when it's cold versus when it's hot. Took it for another test drive the next morning. Everything was fine. And then I believe I took it for another test drive before he came and picked it up and drove off into the sunset. And that was the last I've heard of him until we got served. I mean, the bottom line is all of our warranty work is installed or done here. The customer, in my experience, I've been doing this for 35 years, has to at least give us a chance to, if we did make a mistake, to fix our mistake, to make it right. And there's no
why he should have never.
Yeah, there's no reason except for maybe he was, I don't know why, I can't speak for him, but it's pretty clear that our warranties are in-house. I gave him a 90-day warranty on a part that didn't have a warranty to begin with. The turbos were brand new. And the one where he says that we put old parts on, I explained to him why I put his old parts on.
And nothing to do with how it functioned.
Yeah,
it was just the housing.
It was just the housing. They don't move. They're just covers, basically. Is it possible that the wastegates were out of sync? It is possible. Is it do I need to put brand new turbos on? No. But apparently that's the road that he went. He suddenly found the money to do it and had it done somewhere else, which is perfectly fine. But
okay. I'm gonna ask a few questions just to clarify. So the vacuum line, that was an issue. Was that, if I'm understanding this correctly, that was seen the same day? So he came to pick up on the 16th, drove off, then came back that same day, and you fixed it that same day?
Yeah, it was within like 15 minutes.
Okay, so so it was taken care. I just wanted to verify that it wasn't. Okay, and then the last time you saw him was on the 16th?
It was a couple days after that because we let him borrow one of
That's
our
right.
cars.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And I mean, I'll be honest, it did take probably about a week to be able to get him in. I can't say exactly how long. It was maybe three to 5 business days, maybe.
He had a car while
he had a.
And then we've never seen him since he picked his truck up.
I see. Okay, thank you. And then he did leave I did see that there was the review.
Yeah, he left that. It was a few
September
weeks
26th.
Yeah.
What it says.
So what is that?
So he picked it up on the 16th and left us a good 5-star review on the
Couple weeks after.
2 weeks after. And then on here it says on the Reed's Automotive, it says they had, let's see, the other facility, they had the truck back for about 5 days. So within that 5 days, he put 4,000 miles on it. And then a week and a half, 2 weeks later, he wrote us a good review, which kind of perplexed me. I was kind of, okay.
let's see, odometer in. I'm looking for the odometer for what it was, because I'm showing on your receipt it was like 218,000 miles.
That's a kilometer.
'Cause
Huh?
That was in kilometers.
that's what his
Oh.
truck's stuck in.
It's kind of cut off on the side over here, so it's hard
Yeah.
to see. So in a conversion, you said it's in kilometers. What is that? I
Conversion
guess
for
so.
what that is 135,689.
Okay, I did write that down correctly. Okay. But that's in kilometers. I just wanted to make sure because I was like, I wasn't seeing that 135 number anywhere.
Well, that's
Makes
what
sense.
we were at. It took us a second too, because we were like, what the heck? And
Because we
It's
take
a metric
photos of
system.
all miles.
you know,
Yes.
we have
Okay.
photo documentation of miles.
Okay. And you were never asked to replace the entire, I have it written down somewhere, my apologies. The exhaust manifold, it was just the bolts.
Yes, yeah, no, nothing about the exhaust, the complete, like the actual exhaust manifold was.
It was just
ever
the
mentioned.
gasket.
All right. Mr. McCoy, I have a few questions for you, if you could unmute, please. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Firstly, I want to just kind of walk through some things since I've heard both sides. Let's see. So you've stated that you were given turbos, but you didn't know where they were from? Or
No.
what? You said they
No.
weren't eBay, but what was your understanding?
That they looked like new turbos. They were nice and shiny. He just pulled them off his shelf when he was showing me that my turbo was seized.
He said he purchased two turbos that were too small, and it said they looked
Yeah.
like they were fit, and you were excited about that?
Yeah, I was like, okay, great. You already have the parts on hand. Awesome. Let's do it.
Did he indicate that these weren't brand new?
No, not at all.
Okay, and there's no warranty, but he did give you a 90-day warranty on the turbo?
He did. Yes, he wrote that on his receipt that he gave me. Yes.
Okay.
If I may, Your Honor.
If just a second, because it sounds like from what I understand, their standard warranty, it looks like 1 year or 12,000 miles. But from what I understand, because these parts were purchased on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, that they were as is, and so he gave you the 90-day warranty in lieu of their normal 12-month warranty. Am I understanding that
On
correctly?
just the turbos.
On just the turbos,
Everything
yes.
else had an 12,000 mile, but I had told him, and they aren't too small. They were actually for his truck, a 2014. I thought they were for my truck. I thought that they would fit mine, that the turbo was the same. I didn't know that they had done a revision on them. So when I bought the turbos, they were sitting there in the box. I had told Mr. McCoy that I did have a brand new set. They've never been put on. I had brand new gaskets. Everything was all new, but because I didn't buy them from the manufacturer or a parts place,
Ford part,
O'Reilly's or
I get
whatever.
that.
There's no warranty on them because at that time they become secondhand, even though they're brand new.
Okay.
But I personally, because I'm confident in my work and my ability, gave him a 90-day warranty out of just being nice.
Sure.
And I figured that was the right thing to do.
And Mr. McCoy, I guess, what is your understanding of why that was written as the 90-day warranty on just the turbos? Like, what was your understanding of that? Why it was different from their standard on the other parts?
It never occurred to me that it wasn't standard. I've
He-
never owned a vehicle with turbos before. I don't know anything about them. I didn't know if they had.
You're
More
saying
than a
that
90
you're saying that Mr. Ross never told you any of the things that he's saying today.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. He never
Okay,
offered
but
me,
there's
he never told me
okay.
about eBay turbos or
That is
But why did you get a discounted rate on the turbos? What was your understanding of why they were discounted so heavily if they're originally around 6,000 and you got them for about 750? Or
They're
yeah,
usually
750.
around 6,000. They're usually, I mean, the brand new turbos that I paid Reeds to install were only $1,000, and those were brand new through them.
But I feel
Whereas
like, well, that doesn't include the labor for, right? Those are just strictly the parts, not the labor.
well, yeah, but I mean,
Because the labor description I'm looking, the turbo you had was $750. And then so
yeah,
you have two turbos in your reeds, right? So
yeah, and they were
that's
$1,000 a piece.
$2,000. So they were
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
So
So
what
they
was
were
your
two.
understanding of why this was so heavily discounted?
He told me they were just sitting there and that he'd give me a discount for them, that he was not using them.
Okay. For the 90-day warranty, why didn't you return the vehicle within the 90 days to get
Well,
repairs?
because of all the stuff that the Reed's automotive people told me about.
Okay, so let's
Oh.
kind of talk about that because you had indicated that they'd not fully replaced the manifold, but it sounds like that was not what you went in for pro
No, it
service.
wasn't.
Okay, so
No.
they just okay. So they did the bolt replacement on the exhaust manifold at pro service.
Yeah,
So,
he replaced my bolt and my gasket. I was
but
under
not
the
the entire
impression,
manifold, because that's what
but
you were
not,
saying that they
yeah,
were.
I was under the impression that the whole part was being replaced, not just the bolts and the gasket, because
And
it was warped.
okay, and then, but the receipt does just indicate that it's the exhaust manifold gasket set.
Not on,
On
I'm
this
sorry.
receipt for pro services, yes, it says on the left exhaust
Oh.
manifold gasket set.
Okay.
So
I only saw the exhaust manifold remove and replace.
that's the labor description, so it's the part plus the labor to remove and replace the gaskets.
Okay.
So I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around, and like, I guess the turbo, the way they described it is that the spinning part, the moving part on the inside is basically what runs it. The two pieces on the outside are the housing and casing. And it sounds like they reused those and that was, he walked through that and did he walk through and show you parts about your truck? He never showed you the in-camera?
I can probably
Never-
pull it up on video,
I,
to be
Once-
honest with you. 'cause I
Actually,
showed him it.
Mr.
That'd be
McCoy,
great.
you testified today that you came back and took a camera and put it down the front of the engine and showed you that the turbine wasn't spinning.
On the original first inspection, yes. On when I
So-
first came in and had it inspected.
So, but he did show you
He
what
showed
was
me,
going on.
yeah, he showed me that my turbo was not spinning.
Okay, and then um, and then he called to see if you wanted to replace the exhaust manifold gaskets and you okayed that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you express that you were, a little short on money and that's why you were needing some like alternative method or replacement?
Nope.
But you did indicate that you needed to go to your father or father-in-law for the other
For the
money?
other 2,000, yeah, because I had just
Okay.
paid rent and I didn't have $2,000 or $1,500 to replace the gasket right at that time.
But you left a review,
Yeah,
a very positive review for them.
I did on the 26th, the last day that I was in contact with them after I picked up my truck for the last time.
Okay, and then, so there's also the difference of about 4,000 miles between, the pro service uh, intake and then the read one. So that's 4,000 miles that you put on the truck.
Yes, I must have. I mean, I
And you
only
didn't-
really,
You didn't notice, I think that was within, 1 second, let me just double check the dates. It's about a month, maybe?
Yeah, but he told them that he had trouble after 5 days.
Time in
I-
at 10/7, yeah, 5 days after. Yeah,
actually, what I
it's-
told them was 5 to 10 days, but they've just put 5 days under their notes.
Okay, well, that's what I have in front of me. So they said they had
Yeah.
5 days regardless. So 5 to 10 days, you put 4,000, about 4,000 miles on the truck. And you had no other issues before that?
No.
Okay.
And I'd also like to point out that this other shop had my truck for 3 days and it was completely fixed.
Probably.
Not
Um,
3 weeks.
but you were given alternative means of transportation because of the length of time, even a personal vehicle.
After a week and a half, yes. Yeah, I
And but
was.
it sounds like it's all a couple days worth. It's not like they had it for a month. And it looks like there was kind of constant communication. That once you did, it's like the 13th, the 6th, all within a week. Okay. And you did not go back to for the warranty that was provided to you.
No, because I was super mad about what these other mechanics told me.
Okay.
Cops are
Despite the
very
fact that you have a warranty that would go towards,
The turbos that
yeah.
they told me that they didn't replace all the way. I
Well,
mean,
I do have testimony that they replaced the part that moves and that the original housing was,
but I guess yes, but I mean, they told me that both exactly what it says here. It appears the passenger side turbo actuator and exhaust manifold gaskets were replaced recently. However, the turbos and exhaust manifold appear to be the original components.
Components.
the components being the casing
on the driver's side.
on the driver's side.
But we don't have any pictures of the turbos that came off his truck when Reed's took them off, which I think would have been pretty relevant. That way we could have showed you that one side was brand new. The other side, which is the driver's side, is the side that I reused the housing and not this intersection. That way I could explain, well, I have the old center section, the one that failed.
Is this photo like what you're talking about? I know this
Yeah,
is
so that's the pieces of the turbo.
okay.
And I put a turbo, the turbo that's whole, I put in there
This
as,
one right here?
yeah, to
Okay.
show you where all the pieces kind of go.
Okay.
And like I said, the center section is the only section that really makes a difference because it's the only,
It's
that's
this
the
one right
only-
here, right?
Yes, that's the only moving part or that has any fluid going through it. I mean, the wastegate actuator, which is on this part. Well, that's the actuator, but there's an arm right here.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
Okay, that's the only moving part on these. And the eBay turbos, Amazon turbos, aftermarket turbos, they're not the most reliable, which is another reason why I used his Ford factory to keep the reliability there for that one part.
Okay.
And I believe if I'm thinking about it right, I believe that I did reuse his Ford factory wastegate actuator because they are more reliable than the aftermarket eBay. But all it does is hold air. It holds a vacuum.
Okay.
So they were working at that time.
Which he knew that.
And I, like I said, when I put the center section on his old turbo or on his old housings on the driver's side only, I had expressed to him several times because I wanted to drill it in his head that it is a new turbo, but I used the outer housings to make anything more reliable. Anything that's factory is going to be a better choice to use on a car than something from Amazon or eBay.
And it's
So,
your testimony today that you've walked him through pretty much all these steps as you've described today.
like I do with every customer, we've been in business. Yeah, we're the only 5-star shop. If you read any of our reviews are stellar. We have no issues. The only other time that we've ever done anything is yeah. So
Okay. And Mr. McCoy, it's your assertion that he never went over anything with you in regards to the repair? Showed you nothing, demonstrated nothing, showed you parts, not showed you parts. What's your assertion?
No, after the 16th, when I dropped off my truck the second time, he told me the reason that my turbos were not working correctly was because of my catalytic converter.
Okay.
That's what I was told was wrong after picking it up and dropping it off again.
Okay, and that was after you had left and then came back shortly after.
Correct.
Okay. But it's your assertion that he never talked about the turbo, like showed you anything? Demonstrated nothing, showed you none of the parts?
That he took off my truck.
No, that the parts that he was going to be using to replace.
He just at the very beginning when we had the inspection done. That was the only time I saw those new turbos.
And you're not sure why that there was a difference between the 90-day warranty and the usual 12-month warranty or the heavily discounted price?
No,
Okay.
no. The price he told me was discounted because he wasn't using those turbos. He had no need for them, so he would give me a discount. And the warranty, you know, I can't remember him ever saying why he only gave me a 90-day and not
Okay.
a more longer term or warranty.
Okay.
I was very thorough with him, Your Honor.
Why we even
All
That's
right.
why I even kept the
Thank you
parts.
guys. I'm gonna make my ruling or judgment now. So right now we have the small claim where Mr. McCoy is asking for a total of $3,146.88. That includes the inspection, the service receipt, as well as the bank statement to prove the $270.50 for the other replacement for the vehicle not being repaired.
Your Honor, I do have one thing on that. On his invoice for the inspection, because we actually took the $100 off. It says $100 discount down in the small box, and we
wrote it.
wrote it. Took $100. It takes off $100 for diagnostic. So we did not charge him for diagnostic because he got the repair done and it was
He is right.
certain
He is
Oh,
amount.
I
correct.
see that $100 is reduced. I
I
really
see that
appreciate you
now, too.
clarifying that. It is taken off. I will note that that exhibit does indicate that the discount for $100 was taken off for the diagnostic. So, that is a fairly clear ruling that I am not granting or ruling in favor of the plaintiff on the inspection costs. I, listening to everything, I find Mr. Ross fairly credible with his description of the event. His thoroughness with what he did with this was very clear that this was bought secondhand. I realize Mr. McCoy is stating that conversation never happened. However, looking at the kind of corroborating evidence surrounding that, I have the heavily discounted price of the turbos. I have the limited warranty that was provided for 90 days in lieu of their general 1-year warranty on their parts. So there was evidence to show and go towards what Mr. Ross was saying, that he had gone through all of these things. I'm not concerned about the time that it took to get replaced. It sounds like there was a few things. Mr. McCoy brought it in right after he picked it up, and it turns out there was the vacuum line. It looks like that was taken care of very quickly and that there was not an issue after that. And Mr. McCoy left a very positive review. Mr. McCoy did not go back or contact Pro Service in any way, shape, or form afterwards to utilize a 90-day warranty indicated on the contract saying, or on the invoice saying that the warranty has to be performed in shop. At this point, I am going to deny the plaintiff's claims in its entirety, and no judgment shall be entered in favor of the plaintiff. Now, Mr. McCoy, you have the right to appeal this court's decision to the Cowlitz County Superior Court. You must file a written notice of appeal with the district court clerk within 30 days from today. If you do not file your notice of appeal within the time allowed by law, you lose your right to appeal. The district court clerk will give you a notice of appeal form at your request. And this,
my check engine light lit up the Oregon road. My $40,000 truck went straight into limp mode. I chilled at Burgerville while Jeremy looked inside. He sold me Facebook Marketplace parts for my ride. I left a 5-star review, then I sued the shop. Drove 4,000 miles in 5 days, I didn't stop. He reused the factory housing, but the center cartridge was new. The judge denied my claim. What's a guy to do?